What up, boys and girls? GoodMicWork back at you on another Monday Night Raw review. This one is for July 6th, 2020. And I gotta say, this was kind of an interesting Raw. It wasn't the worst pandemic Raw we've ever seen. There was some interesting news and notes coming out of there. Three pretty big news items, I think, to come out of Raw tonight. Plus some more setup for Extreme Rules. And you know, it wasn't the greatest, but we've definitely seen worse in the current times that we're in right now. So I did not totally hate tonight's Monday Night Raw, even though it did have a few things there that damn near put me to sleep. So we'll talk about it, we'll discuss it, and hopefully we'll have some fun tonight. I want to thank everybody who is joining us for the second night in the row. We were up here for a special Sunday edition of the Winged Eagle podcast yesterday due to the 4th of July being on Saturday. So we bumped it a day. So you've got me 2 days in a row here now. So if you haven't heard the podcast from yesterday, where I get into a lot of wrestling news, talk a lot about Fyter Fest and Great American Bash Night 1, preview Night 2. We talked about this past week's SmackDown and all sorts of other stuff. You can check out that from yesterday. It's up on the YouTube channel right now. But as for tonight, we're pretty much going to limit it to Monday Night Raw and maybe some other wrestling news that we can discuss. We'll answer some questions in the chat. We'll hang out and do our thing, as usual, as we do here every Monday night. First of all, just want to say hello to Zane and Sunny Man and Todd, Jet the Hawk, Naveed, and Sports Fanatic, and Shell Shock, Austin, How Wheezy, Ryan, K-Dog's Kennel, Tim, and a super chat rolling in from Taylor. Thank you, man, for the $2. Appreciate it. What a time this is for Scottish wrestling. Proud. Yeah, right? I'm happy for you, too. George Morris, thank you for the $2. Hey, Greg, how are you? What is new? I am great. Not much is new, other than working, dealing with a pandemic, and trying to watch empty arena wrestling for the past several months, and there's no end in sight. It's pretty much been all but confirmed now that WWE will be running SummerSlam from the Performance Center. No chance that it's going to be in Boston. No chance that they can even really go to another venue and maybe have a small, intimate audience. Looks like that is all completely out the window now, and they're going to be at the PC again, and shit, now we're going to have to start talking Survivor Series and potentially even next year's WrestleMania still being confined to the PC. It ain't looking good. But yeah, we'll talk about all that, too, as we go through things tonight. Good to see you as well, Joshua, and Ronnie Matthews, and Zane. Thank you for the $5 chiming in. Maybe Heath Slater would be a part of the WWE Championship stipulation. Slater contract on a pole match. I thought when Slater came out tonight, which we're about to talk about here in a minute, I thought that he would be involved in the stipulation. But that might not be the case. They might have just brought him in to give him one more appearance and tie up a loose end with him and send him on his way, because there have been rumors of him joining Impact. And if that's in fact going to happen here, he was able to come back in, do one more appearance on Raw. Could be the case there, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Stone Cold, thank you for the $2 as well. Yeah, new U.S. title tonight was unveiled. I don't think I even heard about this until today. And if I heard about it last week, I just forgot. But I was pretty much reading. I was a little bit busy walking around the house during the unveiling, so I didn't tweet out any initial comments or opinions on it. I kind of just watched the reaction, and it really seemed split. A lot of people were saying that the belt looks really good, that they liked it. It's gives them a good vibe or whatever. I saw some positive comments. Then I saw negative ones. Oh, it's stupid, it's ugly, it sucks, or whatever. To me, it's a win when there's not a gigantic, obnoxious, oversized WWE logo smeared across every inch of that leather strap. And that is so annoying. You got all 4 world titles doing that right now. And I just, so at least the secondary titles, just keep the WWE logo shit to a minimum, please. And I don't really hate the belt. It's kind of got the Winged Eagle vibe going on a little bit, which I do like. And overall, I don't have a problem with it. So I guess I'm leaning more towards the side of people that liked the belt more than disliked the belt. And a couple of different angles. A lot of people were saying the initial angle that they showed on TV wasn't very attractive. But then when WWE released a whole bunch of shots of the belt from different angles, it looked a little bit better. So I think it will grow on us. And honestly, I don't hate it. I like it a hell of a lot more than the Intercontinental title. I do not like the Intercontinental title at all. And this one, it's different. We always, all the fans, especially in wrestling, always reject change. Even though they say they want it, they always reject it. And I'm guilty of that too. Every time they've unveiled a new belt, I generally maybe don't like it at first, and then it kind of grows on me, sort of thing. So that'll probably be the case here, but my initial opinion of it is it's not that bad, and it definitely could have been worse. I was nervous when they were going to unveil a new belt because I just assumed it was going to be another thing with a big giant WWE on it and then some red, white, and blue in the background. They actually kept the red, white, and blue to a minimum. It's not quite as in your face as the previous belt. And overall, I like it. So anyway, there's a little early opinion on the U.S. title, even though I don't have that set in my notes to talk about until later on. Let's start just knocking out the results here of Monday Night Raw. We'll see what kind of an audience we have. Channel's been weird lately. A couple of weeks ago, we were having just crazy amount of views. And then recently, not so much, and I don't know what the fuck's going on. So we'll see how we do tonight and what kind of a crowd we have in here to discuss Raw. But the show opened up with some kind of surprising news. We saw a return in the opening segment. It was a Drew McIntyre promo. Apparently, this was going to be the segment where Dolph Ziggler came out and announced what the stipulation was going to be for Extreme Rules. By the way, if you hadn't heard, it's now called The Horror Show at Extreme Rules. It's no longer Extreme Rules Horror Show. Now it's The Horror Show at Extreme Rules. They probably said that 11 times in the first 90 seconds of the show. Ridiculous. Between the commentators mentioning it a half dozen times, Drew McIntyre mentioned it in his promo 3 or 4. Ziggler came out and said the same thing. It was all about hammering that into your head. The Horror Show at Extreme Rules. What is wrong with this company? So anyway, it's called that. Ziggler is supposed to announce the stipulation because McIntyre is going to allow him to pick it. That's how confident he is that he can wipe the floor with Ziggy. So he said, you pick the stip. I don't care. I'll whip your ass either way. So Ziggler comes out, teases us a little bit, doesn't really announce the stipulation, and brings out Heath Slater, who was one of the names in that long list that was released way back on April 15th. So he kind of shows up. Really good to see him. Looks like he's been working out in his time off. And this was probably, it's funny that it takes a company a decade to say to themselves, let's let this guy go out there and cut a real promo. It's probably the best promo of Heath Slater's career. And he got in the ring. Of course, he's got the long history with Drew McIntyre dating back to their 3MB days and beyond that. And you kind of knew, I mean, before he even said anything, even though I liked the promo, I knew what he was going to say. He was going to talk about how they were supposed to be bros, and then he wasn't there for him when he was released, and all that stuff, and he did. He touched on all of their history, how far they go back, how long they've known each other. He says he loves Drew, you're my brother. When you won the title at WrestleMania, I cried, and when you were released years ago, and I was still here, I was there for you. I supported you, and I was your friend, but when I was released, you weren't there for me. Drew actually looks remorseful about all of this. And seems like, shit, Slater might have a point kind of thing. Slater wants a match with him, but Drew doesn't really want to fight him. Eventually, Slater slaps Drew right in the face, and he still doesn't engage, but he accepts he accepts the challenge. He says, fine, I'll face you. I think the title was on the line. I kind of missed that part. They go to commercial, come back, match starts. Slater eats a Claymore about 4 seconds in, gets pinned, and that's that. So after the match, it looked like Ziggler was kind of, the whole time you knew Ziggler was manipulating and using Heath Slater to get to Drew. And after the match, Ziggler's unhappy with Heath, and then Drew McIntyre comes back and actually patches things up with Heath Slater, and they have a nice little moment there. So everybody, it seemed like across the board on social media, liked the segment. I did. I thought the promo was good. And I'd much rather see this when it comes to like a 3MB match. I'd much rather see Slater and Drew than Jinder and Drew. So the fact that match was quick was kind of funny because Slater, in the course of 2 segments, got himself over, then got buried, and then got himself over again when he hugged Drew at the end, and they had the nice little moment there. And now seemingly he could be off to Impact. I don't know what the word is here. I'm sure some news will come out on that later on tonight or tomorrow morning on his contract status. Has he come back into the company and re-signed a deal, or is this him just kind of tying up a loose end in WWE and, going out and now heading over to Impact? I really don't know. All signs are kind of pointing to the fact that he's still done, and this was probably a one-off. So if it is, best of luck in Impact or wherever you land, and it was good to see him at least for tonight. But we'll see how that plays out in the next couple of days in terms of what they're going to do with him. And it is possible, I suppose, that he could still play a role in the Extreme Rules match if whatever the stipulation turns out to be. I said, Dolph, if he can pick the stip, why doesn't he just pick a 10-on-1 handicap match? Me and 9 of my friends versus you, and if any one of my friends pin you, I win the title. Just make that stipulation. What's stopping him? So I don't know if Heath will turn back up or if this is indeed the end for him. So best of luck to him either way. Joseph Fincham, thank you, man, for the $2. 3MB reunion. Damn, why did Hinder get hurt? I know. It sucks that he did. I thought for sure once Drew became champion that they got to do a 3MB something or other, especially when they all kind of landed on the same brand there. Would have been fun to see a triple threat. Would have been fun to see McIntyre beat them both in a handicap match or something. And poor Slater's the only member of that faction that hasn't been world champion. And it doesn't look like that's changing anytime soon based on what we saw tonight. And Heath has kids. That's right. And I liked his promo. You know, he talked about, he's like, it's not a gimmick. Like, I really have kids. I have 2 beautiful kids. This is about my life. You know, this is my livelihood. This is how I make my money. And this is important to me and that sort of thing. So it was heartfelt. I felt it. You know, you felt like there was some realness behind it. And it was all good. All in all, a good segment. Even though it probably spelled the end for old Slater in WWE. You know what I forgot to do earlier? I did not do any sound check tonight. Do I sound all right? All right, we're good. We're good. Never did that. Totally forgot to. Okay. At least y'all can hear me. All right. What was next on Raw? We've got the Sasha Bayley promo was up next. Now, this one was confusing because Asuka has been set to face Bayley all week on Raw tonight, but WWE cannot make up their minds with what the hell is going on with Kairi Sane. See, she was originally in the match graphic advertising it from last week. Then she was taken out, prompting more reports to come out about her wrapping up business with WWE, heading back over to Japan to be with her husband, and wrapping up her in-ring career within the next year. We talked about that yesterday on the podcast, and we wished her well. And then later on today, she was back added to the graphic for the match, and then taken out again, and then she was brought back out here. It was confusing as hell. So anyway, Asuka's got to face Bayley. That match would be the main event later on. She comes out there with Sasha. They're in the ring, you know, talking their shit, how great they are and everything. Asuka winds up coming out to the stage, interrupting, and says, "You're not ready for Asuka." And Bayley says that, you know, I'm ready for you, and Sasha's ready for anybody. She'll take on anybody that you've got with you, because Asuka said she's not alone when they asked her backstage, how are you going to contend with both of these ladies by yourself? And she goes, who says I'm alone, or whatever. So she's on the stage. Bayley is kind of like they've been doing with Sasha and Bayley a lot lately. Bayley volunteers Sasha to take on whoever Asuka has with her, and I kind of thought they might bring out Io Shirai, but she brought out Kairi Sane. So is Kairi Sane gone, or is she not gone? Is this going to be like a Heath Slater situation where she's going to do a couple of more things on Raw to kind of write her out of TV? Or is she back? Did she sign some sort of a new contract? I guess we'll keep our eye on the wrestling news there as well. Find out tonight or tomorrow what the story is with Kairi Sane. I hope she's back. I didn't want her to leave, but, you know, if it's a deal about her personal life and she wants to go back and be with her family, you know, who can blame her, you know? So whatever the deal is with Kairi Sane, whether she's sticking around or whether she's leaving, we just wish her the best here on the channel. So that led, after the commercial break, to a Kairi Sane and Sasha Banks match, which is not bad. Kairi would win this via DQ, so we didn't get a clean finish here, but Bayley eventually broke up the submission. I think Kairi had Sasha in a compromising situation there. Bayley hits the ring, attacks, referee calls for the bell. There's a big brawl after the match. Cool spot on the outside of the ring where Kairi does an insane elbow from the top rope onto the floor on top of Sasha and Bayley, which looked like it took about an hour and a half to set up, but the cameras panned away from Bayley and Sasha as they literally just stood there waiting for Kairi to drop the elbow. But it was edited well and looked pretty good, pretty fun spot, and it's just really cool to see Kairi Sane back. And I miss later on, we're going to talk about that in a minute, but later on, they would do a backstage deal again with Sasha and Bayley, and I wasn't paying complete attention, but it looked like they, I think it was Sasha this time that volunteered Bayley up to take on anybody, and they might have some sort of a match set next week. I just didn't catch it. So you guys can let me know in the in the chat there what the hell I missed with that situation. But we'll talk about the main event here in a bit. Next up, I'll read that one in a minute, Chris. Thank you for that. Next up, we cut backstage. We've got Aleister Black laying down. There's supposed to be a tag team match later on with, I think it's Seth Rollins and Murphy taking on Aleister Black and Rey Mysterio. Well, Aleister Black is shown laying down on the ground after an attack. He's got a Mysterio mask over his head. Seth is kind of standing there laughing, so clearly he was the victim of an attack by Messiah and his crew, or his one-man crew of Buddy Murphy. So it looks like Aleister is now ousted from the tag team match. So again, they're changing shit up or changing their mind once they've advertised stuff. So Black now looks like he's not going to be involved. And we also have Kevin Owens on Raw tonight with the Kevin Owens show and Seth Rollins as his guest. So that's the next segment up. Owens comes out there. He's pretty funny on the mic. I love listening to him talk. Seth comes out. They've got a lot of history from WrestleMania. Kevin Owens goes on to remind Seth repeatedly that he lost to Kevin Owens at WrestleMania, even gave him a shirt, the Kevin Owens WrestleMania shirt. Rey and Dominic wind up coming out to the stage, and you kind of thought that it was going to be Dominic. I was like, man, since Aleister is out, is Rey going to have his son be in this tag match tonight? Because he is cleared by the doctors to return to the ring. So as Rey's talking, Kevin Owens offers to be Rey's partner. He goes, I'll stand by you any day of the week, Rey. I'll be happy to be your partner if you'll have me. And then he ups the ante a little bit and says, in the tag team match, why don't we do this? Whichever team wins gets to pick the stipulation for the Extreme Rules match that's now set with Seth Rollins and Rey Mysterio. So that match is coming up quicker than we thought. Thought they might save that until SummerSlam, but they probably will have a blow-off at SummerSlam, but they're setting up something here now for Extreme Rules. And I think we go to a commercial, we come back, and we've got the tag match. And Kevin Owens and Rey defeat Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy. A couple of interesting spots in the match. Dominic is at ringside there, and Seth at one point in the match goes after his eye, tries to poke out Dominic's eye. So they're really focusing heavily on the eye stuff here. What winds up happening is Aleister Black's music hits. He comes out to the stage, and Dominic, at the same time, basically goes, that's happening. He goes after Murphy's eyes. Dominic grabs Murphy and puts his thumbs right in his eyes, and Murphy's freaking out. So the distraction by Aleister Black, distracting Seth. Dominic poking out Murphy's eyes. Murphy gets back in the ring, allowing Rey Mysterio to hit the 619 and a frog splash for the win for their team, allowing now Rey Mysterio to pick whatever stipulation they have at the horror show, Extreme Rules. And you guys have to help me. What is the goddamn stipulation here? He gets on the mic and talks about an eye for an eye and says that at Extreme Rules, I'm going to rip your eye out with my own bare hands or something like that. And that's it. So I don't even know the name of the match. I'm guessing they're going to call it an eye for an eye match, or an eyeball match, or whatever, but it sounds like you win by removing the eyeball from your opponent's eye socket. That sucks. I'd hate to be in that match. Is that really what the stipulation is here? Because that's literally what it sounded like coming out of Mysterio's mouth, and they didn't really offer any clarification on that. As the show went on, the announcers were just kind of sitting there looking at each other like, well, it's a horror show, so they're trying to go with blood and guts and gore here. I don't know how the hell this is going to work unless they do some sort of a cinematic deal with this too. Maybe it's more of a style of like what Ciampa and Gargano did, and then they can edit it and make it look like somebody has lost their eye. Big news coming out in the last couple of days regarding Rey Mysterio, the fact that he's working in WWE right now without a contract. They weren't able to come to terms on a new deal. Rey wanted more money. WWE's like, no. And so he's just working with no deal. So maybe he loses his eye, and then this gets him off of TV until they can get his contract figured out. Or other than that, I can't see a guy without a contract beating one of WWE's top stars. So I don't know what's going to happen there, and I don't know what the stipulation is about, and I don't know how you win. But it sounds like somebody's got to lose an eye, Vader style. That match against Hanson. So yeah, eyeballs popping out. I don't know. Doesn't sound pleasant. What do you guys think? By the way, guys, smash that thumbs up for me since we got a low audience for a Monday. Man, people are not watching wrestling right now. Remember the good old days of 700-800 people here in the chat? We got 96 up in here right now. Man, this pandemic is killing us. Let me cruise back up here, knock out a couple of super chats, and then we'll continue on with the Monday Night Raw results. Chris, man, thank you for the $5, dude. I appreciate it. Do you think Brock still doesn't give a F about Heath's kids? Probably not. I don't think Brock gives an F about anybody's kids, and certainly not Heath Slater's. That was funny. I forgot about that little interaction with Brock and Slater back in the day. Marcus Metcalf, thank you, man, for the $5 as well. Kyrie's deal is either up or almost up, but she can't go anywhere. That's why she's doing these shots, because she's stuck in Florida. Yeah, that's probably likely as well. I just kind of thought, with WWE taking her out of the advertisement earlier this week, why did they do that? You know, so she hasn't wrestled on Raw since May. So maybe they wanted, maybe they realized, oh shit, we wanted her return to be kind of a surprise, and they realized they shouldn't have included her in the graphic. Might have been something as simple as that. But yeah, if she's stuck in Florida and her contract is not technically up, they can use her. And maybe that's why they're doing it. It just seemed odd the way they couldn't figure out what the hell's going on, and all the conflicting reports regarding her contract and what her future might hold. And then she shows up on Raw. So yeah, it was just a interesting situation. Yeah, I mean, this is some CZW type of stuff here. I mean, this is like really, really extreme. Even ECW weren't popping guys' eyeballs out, were they? So I don't know. Oh yeah, Barry, you're probably right. I guess we should start reviewing some Zoe 101 shows. Get views through the roof, man. Yeah, I think you're right too, Victor. I think maybe if we were expecting the Ray Seth stuff to go into SummerSlam, if Ray's not working with a contract right now, they probably just want to get this match done and move on, I suppose. Would be cool. I mean, if Ray is truly working without a contract right now and there's no other fine print there, and if he has no contract, that means he should have no compete clause or anything like that, right? Unless he's still into the he might be in the non-compete right now of his previous contract. I don't know, but if he truly has no contract, could he show up on Wednesday, pull a Lex Luger and just show up on the competition? That would be pretty funny. I don't think he'll do that, especially if he's got future wrestling aspirations for his kid. Being underneath the WWE umbrella, honestly, is probably the best thing for Dominic. Being able to be at the Performance Center and train with those people is probably best for him, and, maybe that's what Ray wants. But technically, if he's contractless, he can go do whatever he wants. We'll talk about the U.S. belt now. Now, this is kind of interesting because, holy shit. Oh, well, let me pause here and knock out this one from Zane. Dude, appreciate the $50 super chat. That is very nice of you, dude. I'll pause the Raw results to read this very kind message from Zane here. Hey, McIntyre, I want to follow up on a topic during the Winged Eagle podcast last night regarding Shayna Baszler's push. My question, if McMahon says he doesn't understand the MMA style of Baszler, then what the hell has Lesnar been doing? I thought about that too, and thanks again, dude, for that. That's very kind of you. I don't know. I maybe he's looking maybe more at Lesnar as like the draw, because Lesnar had that name, and the only other one prior to that was Shamrock that came in with a name. A lot of notoriety, the most dangerous man in the world stuff at the top, one of the top guys in the UFC at that time, and I think he was more attracted to the drawing power. But Vince, might not like the actual MMA style unless it's depending on the person who has it, kind of thing. So, because there's been some MMA gimmicks that haven't really worked before, and Baszler, I just think is, she's not Ronda, but I still think she handles that style really well, and I don't understand why Vince wouldn't want an ass kicker like that. My only guess there is based on how attractive Lesnar was, because Lesnar, you got to remember too, when he came into WWE as a wrestler, he was doing wrestling before MMA. He had a ton of amateur experience, big amateur background, won some national championships, came in. Of course, he's a beast, and he's athletic, and he can do some crazy things in the ring. So Lesnar was maybe working at first more of a Kurt Angle style, than an MMA style. It wasn't until he came back that, you know, his pace slowed down. A lot of his matches just became German suplex conventions. A lot of them were slow, methodical, a lot of striking, punches, kicks, that's it. Where prior to him leaving, you know, he's shooting star pressing bitches and he's diving over the top rope and, you know, he's doing some extremely athletic things, but his style changed after his run in the UFC and his title run there. And what a big star he became there. So I think it was just based on his, you know, just his career path. So maybe not just Vince hates it in every wrestler, but for some reason he's not vibing with Shayna. And that's a shame because Shayna Baszler's awesome. And why? I mean, she was great in NXT. It was working there. People wanted to see her lose. Yes, they were getting tired of her at the end. But I still think, you know, she put on some really good matches and was a tough champion. And it's just a pretty good example of how Vince just doesn't get anything. I don't think he understands anything. Vince is a damn fool half the time. But anyway, that's probably the best answer I can give you there, Zane, but I appreciate it. And Joseph Finchman, thanks for chiming in with 10 more bucks. I appreciate that as well. Thank you so much. Totally off topic, but just wanted to give you props, Greg. I've been watching you for a while, but this is the first time commenting. I also missed the live stream. Keep doing your thing. You're the man. Thank you very much, Joseph. I'm glad you're finally popping in and saying something. That's very cool of you, and I'm glad you've been watching for a while. When you say you missed the live stream, do you mean you miss when I live reacted to Raw? I will be doing that again. Mark my words, and this might be way down the line from now. But whatever the first Raw is that we get fans back, I will live react to that whole show, all 3 hours. You know, and unless it's like a deal where they move it or they let fans into the PC, we'll judge that, you know. But when we can get back into an arena and things get back to normal and we can get an audience there, I will be live reacting to that whole show. I think it'll be a very special show. It'll be so nice to kind of get things back to normal when and if that day ever comes. It might be a year from now, but I will plan on doing that. I will react to the whole thing, and then maybe one day we'll pick those back up again because they were fun. I just got burnt out in doing them. It was like a year and a half. But thanks again for that, Joseph. And Victor Cologne chiming in with $5. Appreciate it. Do you think WWE's crappy ratings is because of WWE just relying on past stars and not making new stars? Not right now. That's always going to be an issue. I don't think currently with what we're seeing on TV that they're really relying on past stars. You got Drew as the champion. Apollo Crews is your U.S. champion. Street Profits are your tag champions. The only real stars of the past taking up any TV time right now would be Big Show, Ric Flair, and Randy Orton, but Randy Orton is still an active wrestler, so I don't really think it's that bad right now. These are discussions that we always have every year around WrestleMania time when all the legends get matches. There's times for that discussion, but I think the ratings right now being so bad is mostly because, like we talked about yesterday, is the pandemic. And I had mentioned that I was seeing some people kind of brushing off the pandemic as like not being a factor when it's the absolute biggest factor. Yes, there's other problems. Yes, creatively, things are a mess, and they were prior to the pandemic. But having empty arena wrestling and having everything such a discombobulated mess right now is definitely affecting the ratings because a lot of people have been saying, I've been watching my own followers on Twitter say things like, I'm skipping Raw tonight or not going to watch it. It's not worth it. I've been doing that with SmackDown, just kind of watching the YouTube clips. There's really not a real reason to watch right now. So I think in terms of the ratings sucking now, past stars aren't the problem. I think the pandemic's the problem. But there's been other times when that has been an issue. So, yeah, there you go. Where'd we leave off? We left off with the U.S. title stuff. Lashley and MVP. They are the ones, by the way, who are unveiling the new U.S. title when Apollo Crews is your U.S. champion. That kind of sucks for him. But Apollo is selling the injury, so he's off TV. They've got the belt there under the tarp. And the whole time I'm watching this, I'm like, oh, God. I'm like, I'm not optimistic here. I almost don't want him to pull the blanket off because I don't want to see how ridiculously, stupidly ugly this thing is. And MVP goes to unveil it, and I gotta say, it's not bad. We talked about this at the top of the show here. Very mixed reactions that I saw on Twitter. It really looked about 50-50. Some people hated it. Some people said it wasn't that bad. I kind of dug it. I don't hate it that much because, like I said earlier, one of the things I was worried about is that big ugly ass fucking WWE logo spread across the whole belt. We have 4 titles in the company like that look the same, and I did not want to see that happen with this belt as well. And it was surprisingly better than I thought. I thought the new Intercontinental title design was shit. Maybe if that was a brand new belt without the Intercontinental title legacy, I might have accepted it more, but otherwise, I absolutely hate that belt. So I wasn't thinking that this was going to be any good. And even though it's not the prettiest and best belt I've ever seen, I did not hate it, and I think I can get used to that. And I like the fact that the red, white, and blue wasn't so in your face, wasn't so over the top, even with like a darker shade of blue, not a gigantic WWE logo on it. The belt is mostly gold, and it has a winged eagle kind of vibe to it, which of course you guys know I love. So overall, if I'm grading the belt out of 10, I'll give it a 7.5. I don't really hate it. So you guys can let me know what you think about it, but in terms of introducing a new belt, it's fine. And actually, too, if you notice, it kind of maintained the shape, right? It still had the face plate, the front plate kind of still had that same shape that the old U.S. title did. So it wasn't like a completely new belt like the Intercontinental title was. It maintained a little bit of that, the previous design, which hasn't really been changed in 15, 17. When was that belt introduced? 2003, maybe? 4, something like that. So it's been a while since they've done a design change on that belt. So I guess it was overdue. After they unveiled the title, MVP wants to wear it. So Lashley wraps it around his waist, and MVP actually has a title match against Apollo Crews at Extreme Rules. And it's going to be for the U.S. title. So that's interesting because MVP had a long run with the U.S. title years ago, and he's got a chance to win it again. I don't expect him to. He's getting the shot because I think he pinned him in the tag match or whatever last week. So I think Apollo will beat MVP and then probably go on to drop it to Lashley, I would assume. That's what it feels like. But while MVP is putting the belt on, he is then interrupted by Cedric Alexander and Ricochet, who are kind of sticking up for the absent Apollo. This leads to a tag team match, MVP and Lashley taking on Cedric and Ricochet. And they beat him. Lashley and MVP get the win. Of course, Cedric and Ricochet are doing nothing on TV right now, so that's not a big surprise there. After the match later on in the show, they actually show MVP approaching Cedric backstage after the loss, saying, hey, I got respect for you for standing up to us. It takes balls to do that. Do you want to just be known as Ricochet's sidekick? So it looks like he's trying to recruit Cedric into his faction, and I'd be all for that, because Cedric is a ridiculously talented guy. They've never done anything with him, and I was optimistic when they first put the team of Cedric and Ricochet together. I said they could work. They could be tag team champions. You give them some color-coordinated outfits, give them a team name, go all in on this team, they could be phenomenal. And within 1 week, they're losing matches, and it means nothing. So maybe this is a chance for Cedric to do something different, tap into his heel side, and see what he can do under the tutelage of MVP. I kind of hope that he turns and joins the faction, because he certainly ain't doing anything right now. So I'm all for that. Hopefully Cedric will do it and take him up on his offer, because so far most people that have been propositioned by MVP have turned him away, except for Lashley, So, and I think it was Lashley. I want to say Lashley was even kind of hesitant at first, wasn't he? Until he finally kind of caved. So we'll see. At some point, somebody's got to take him up on his offer, right? So maybe that'll be Cedric. I kind of hope it is. After that, we had a big 6-man match. This was going to be Randy Orton and Angel Garza and Andrade taking on Big Show and the Viking Raiders. Now, prior to the match backstage, Orton kind of lays down the law to Zelina and Andrade and Garza, being like, enough of your bullshit and your bickering. You're not going to go out there and screw this up for me. I will fucking murder you if you do. And that was kind of funny. He just was basically like, none of this shit. Get your act together, or I'll kill all 3 of you, kind of thing. So they go out there. The match starts. At one point, there's some more tension and everything between Andrade and Garza. Orton gets pissed, and in a very awkward type of moment outside of the ring, he kind of grabs Angel Garza by the throat, and he's like, get it together. And he's like, you're a second-generation guy. Your family's been in this business, so I respect you. And it was just really weird or whatever. And then they go to commercial. So during commercial, Orton straightens the dudes out. In the end, Randy Orton hits Eric with the RKO for the win for his team. And congratulations, by the way, to Eric, who announced that Sarah Logan recently released Sarah Logan, then rumored to come back Sarah Logan. And then she recently announced that she's kind of going to be done with wrestling. And we speculated on that. That's kind of strange and out of nowhere. Well, it turns out she's pregnant. So very happy for them. Congrats to her. We're always a big Sarah Logan fan on this channel. And really wish she wouldn't have gotten released. But it's pretty smart. I mean, if she thinks that she's still going to have a career in wrestling, if she thinks that she'll be able to find herself back in WWE or back in the ring one day, and she's been recently released, and we're in the middle of a pandemic that's kind of shut down life for a while, if there's ever a time to pump out a kid, you kind of got the time to do it now because everything's kind of on hold anyway. So, it would be much better, maybe to have a child. If you're a woman wrestler, to have a child now while everything's kind of a mess, to where you're not putting your entire career on hold. When everything's just hot and it's SummerSlam time and you're employed and all of that. So maybe she's like, man, I could have a chance to have a kid now, start a family, and eventually come back to wrestling. I have no idea what she's going to do with her rest of her life and if she'll be back in wrestling or not. But, maybe they're looking at it that way. I don't know. But either way, congratulations to them. They seem like really good people. I'm sure they'll make good parents, great parents, and we're very happy for them. So congrats. And typical WWE, I swear to God, if you're in your hometown, or if it's your birthday, or if your wife announces she's pregnant, you're going to lose your match, like literally 100% of the time. Speaking of losing, Ruby Riott got beat by the other Iconic. Last week, Peyton Royce put her down, which was surprising, but put her down with a pretty sweet-looking finisher, so I didn't totally hate that, even though on paper a result like that makes you want to vomit. She approaches the Iconics backstage again. This time it's going to be Billie Kay taking her on, and Billie Kay beats her. So I don't know what's going on here with Ruby Riott. I was excited when she came back because I thought that she could have a rebirth. And any mistakes they made with her the first time, maybe they won't do that again. But she's now 0 for 20 or something like that since returning to WWE. And this is clearly part of a bigger story. There's something involving Liv Morgan as well, as she was brought up backstage. So I think Liv and Ruby will wind up forming an alliance again. And this losing streak will just be a part of that, and there'll be like a redemption story there or something. But watching Ruby Riott drop 2 back-to-back singles matches to these 2 morons is pretty tough to watch. But anyway, we'll see where it leads with Ruby Riott, but pretty depressing. What's going on with her today, or these days, on WWE? Next up, we had that Sasha and Bayley promo I referenced earlier on. They were backstage, and that's what I didn't catch. I didn't hear what they said, but it sounded like Sasha was offering up Bayley this time to do something, and I think she accepted a match on their behalf. I think it might have been a tag team match, but didn't catch that. Either way, subtle tension, good camera angles there both times tonight when one girl would volunteer the other one to kind of catch their facial expressions. So, again, we talked about this yesterday. When do they do this Sasha and Bayley match? Are they going to do this for SummerSlam? I had pitched the idea of Sasha losing to Asuka at Extreme Rules. Bayley tries to interfere, maybe screws up, costs Sasha the match. Sasha's mad, so since you cost me the opportunity at the Raw title, I want a shot at your SmackDown title, and there's your SummerSlam match. Or do you just keep trolling us and keep stretching it out? Because they are fantastic. They are gold together on the mic as a team. As long as they've drawn this out, I've probably been more interested and entertained with Sasha and Bayley now than I have been the entire time. So now all of a sudden I'm not really ready to see the split because I'm entertained as hell by what I'm seeing. So I don't know what they do. Somebody mentioned, I think it was Spaz yesterday in the podcast, mentioned they could do an Evolution 2 and build that as your main event for that show. If they wanted to stretch it out longer and you did an Evolution, like around October like they did it last time, they brought back In Your House, they could bring back Evolution and set that as your main event. Or they're going to do it this summer and we'll see all this take place at SummerSlam. I don't know. Such a shame that fans aren't in the building for this stuff because they're doing some great work. Bayley is freaking hilarious. Love her. Anyway, this leaves us now with our main event, and I thought for sure props to WWE for actually giving a really good match here in the main event. This match started the women were making their entrance at the bottom of the hour. And I'm like, there's 30 minutes left in the show. Is this really the main event? Sometimes the main event doesn't start until 8 minutes until the show's over. So for me, they were starting way early, and I'm like, oh, God, I know exactly what they're going to do. Kairi Sane's going to be out there. Bayley's going to be out there. There's going to be interference out the ass. There's going to be a restart, and there's going to be a tag match or something like that. So I thought it was going to turn into a tag team match, especially when Nikki Cross was out there on commentary because she's facing Bayley for the title of Extreme Rules. They seem to have dropped the brand-to-brand invitational thing. So, or they haven't really mentioned that, I don't think, but I don't know why Nikki was even out there or why she was allowed to be out there. So the hell with the brand split. I've given up on even caring about the brand split. I don't care anymore. If somebody from SmackDown shows up on Raw, I'm done trying to figure it out because it's confusing. So with all those components, I thought for sure with 30 minutes left in the show, we were going to see all sorts of BS. And we didn't. We saw a really good match. Asuka and Bayley was fucking awesome. They survived 3 different commercial breaks. We saw lots of great stuff in between there. Bayley goads Nikki kind of into a fight a little bit. Nikki goes to attack her. She's held back, and she's literally carried away by security from the commentary table. During the match, Bayley even jumps on headset and sits in the chair at one point and is screaming and yelling, doing all of her Bayley stuff. Really big near fall at the end where Asuka jumps up on the ring apron and kind of Pele kicks Asuka, and she walks right into a Bayley to belly. Thought that was going to be it, but she kicks out. In the end, we had Nikki Cross showing back up. She was on the other side of the plexiglass, so she got away from security, got up to the glass. She's banging on the glass, and that's enough to kind of cause a distraction. Asuka locks Bayley in the Asuka lock. Sasha tries to interfere. Kairi Sane takes out Sasha. A couple of more reversals in the ring, and Asuka's able to roll up and pin down Bayley for the 3 count and get the win there. And I'm happy to see that we actually got a finish because we got a DQ in the earlier match. And even though there was a lot of things going on here and a lot of, outside interference or whatever, I'm glad that at least we got a good match and at least we got a finish. And Asuka and Bayley was pretty good. I enjoyed it. So that was a solid main event. We had a new belt being unveiled. We had, Heath Slater returning and cutting the promo of his life. And we had some not horrible things on Raw, but we had some yawners. There was a couple of segments in a row. It was like a segment that resulted in a tag match. How many times do we have to see that over and over? We saw it with Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins, then Rey Mysterio, and that tag match was set up. Later on, Lashley and MVP, same thing with Ricochet and Cedric. It's just like, how many fucking times can they do this over and over? And then earlier, we saw the Sasha and Bayley promo that led to the Sasha and Kairi Sane match. So how many times? They literally use this 3 to 4 times per week on Raw. Promo, interruption, back and forth on the mic, commercial, impromptu match. Every time. And I know sometimes they do announce matches, but it'd be nice for Raw if they could, like they're doing with Fyter Fest and the Bash right now, just announce every match ahead of time. Just so much impromptu shit. Sometimes that's fun. That used to be what made Raw so fun back in the day, but it's just so overused where every single segment is the same. Does it really take 30 writers to sit around a table and say, okay, first we'll have Kevin Owens come out, then we'll have Seth Rollins come out, then we'll have Rey Mysterio come out, then we'll have they'll challenge them, and then they'll say okay, and then we'll go to commercial, and then we'll come back, and the match is happening. That's brilliant. I'll take my 6 figures, please. Does it really take all that money spent on creative people to come up with just the same template for matchmaking every single week? How many times can you do this shit? So, to me, that's another part of the reason why wrestling is just boring as hell, just because it's so utterly ridiculously predictable and just sometimes not fun and not interesting. And Raw had a little bit of that tonight, but like I said, had some good stuff on it as well. So I'm going to grade this Raw. I'm going to give it out of 10. I'm going to go 7.1. 7.1 out of 10 tonight. Maybe 6.9. Somewhere in there. For an empty arena Raw, for a pandemic Raw, like I said, we've seen worse, especially recently. Thank you. Oh, I thought somebody was answering my question. Yeah, Extreme Rules is July 19th. That is correct. Ruby is 0-12 since returning. That sounds about right. I said 0-20. That's true. Peyton can do whatever she wants. She was not difficult to look at tonight. But man, those Iconics are annoying, aren't they? And plus, props to Peyton. She had a pretty solid little brainbuster finisher thing or whatever the hell she hit on Ruby last week for the win there. Still think Ruby is infinitely better than both of them in the ring, but at least the finish didn't look too horrible last week. What did Billy win with tonight? Powerbomb or something, right? Diego, I don't know what the main event is going to be for Extreme Rules. I think it should be the Swamp match, I think. I think Drew and Dolph will probably be earlier on. I don't know. It just depends. Will they end Extreme Rules with an in-ring match, or will they do it with the Swamp match? It's got to be one of the two world title matches. I suppose it could be a women's match. It could be Sasha and Asuka. I'd be into that. I don't know. I think it honestly could be 3 matches. I don't think it would be Bayley and Nikki, but I think it would be Asuka, Sasha, Swamp match, or Drew and Dolph. I'm voting Swamp match. That's what I would like to see. Thank you for that, Marcus Metcalf. That's what I was trying to figure out. That's the promo that I missed earlier. I didn't gather what they said, but I could tell that Bayley was not happy, and that's because Sasha has volunteered them to defend their tag belts next week against the former champs, the Kabuki Dookie Warriors, Kyrie and Asuka taking on Banks and Bayley. All right, thank you for that, Marcus, and appreciate you clarifying that for me. George Morris, thank you, man. You give Raw a 0 out of 10. Man, you are hard on them. I was really kind. I gave them 7.1. Maybe I ought to lower that. I ain't going to 0, but maybe 7.1 was too kind. Let's go 6.8. 6.8 out of 10. That's what I give Raw tonight. My amended score. And that's all for you, George, because I don't want to upset you. Spaz, thanks, dude. Appreciate you chiming in here as well again. Second night in a row. Thanks for the $5. Not digging the new U.S. title at all, but hey, at least it's finished, right? That's true. Yeah, I talked about it earlier on, too. It felt like it was 50-50. I am leaning on the side of liking it. I don't think it's that bad. And I think probably it's maybe not just the belt itself that I like. I was expecting something so much worse. So maybe that's why I'm giving it a better grade, because I was assuming WWE would give us the most ugliest looking damn thing we'd ever seen. And they really didn't. So I was almost like relieved that it wasn't so bad. So I think that was my mindset going into the belt. But hey, at least it is finished. I don't know who's making AEW's belts, but WWE was able to get one done. Can't they call their guy up? Hey, can you finish this belt for us? That's pretty funny, but I can't see Cody dropping that belt until it's done, at least. I have no idea when Roman Reigns will return. I kind of hope he just stays gone until this is all over. There's really no reason for him to come back. I was a little bit surprised to see Kevin Owens tonight. I kind of thought he had opted to kind of sit out, but maybe he feels better now, because now there actually is testing. WWE is testing everybody prior to and after shows, and there's a mask policy now, so they're as safe as they've ever been now. So maybe that's why Kevin Owens is coming back to work. But still, that's that doesn't prevent really. I mean, it slows down things and it helps prevent the spread, but you can still get it, even with testing and even with masks, you can still get it. So if I'm Roman, I'm staying home. No word on that, though. We've heard nothing from any of the wrestling news sites, nothing on WWE's end. Roman's been pretty silent about it. It's probably a wait-and-see type of deal, I would assume. George Morris, thank you, man. Last good Raw I saw was June 18th, 2007. Holy crap, June 18th, 2007. That was the most fun summer of my life. I will never forget the summer of 2007. I just had a blast. But that was the week before the Benoit murders. Oh, I get it now. I had to put that together. That must have been the Raw that Vince blew up, right? So that's why you liked it? You're funny, George Morse. I wasn't aware of that. I must not have missed that. Marcus, thoughts on WWE freezing contracts of those staying at home during the pandemic? I don't like it when WWE does that, but in this case, I kind of see that's okay. You know, everything's on hold, so your contract should be on hold. The only time shit like that really bothers me is if somebody's contract is coming up and they want to leave, but because of a prior injury, WWE adds on more time just for spite. You know, that's when I don't like it. But in this case, if people are sitting at home, you probably should freeze the contracts. Yes, I guess that's probably fair. I don't really have too much of an issue with that because, you know, if you had the ability to sit home and still collect on your contract, every wrestler would do that. So there's got to be an incentive to people that are risking working. And if you're going to sit out, you know, your contract just is on hold. And then when you come back, your contract resumes. I'm not against that, actually, to be honest. And I'm against almost everything WWE does these days, but I can kind of understand that. Brett, your guess is as good as ours. We talked about that earlier on, and no idea what in the world the stipulation is exactly for Rey Mysterio and Seth Rollins at Extreme Rules. I'm sure we will get clarification on that probably on social media and WWE's website and all of that, and maybe next week we'll talk a little bit more about it. But Ray basically just said, I want to rip your eye out with my bare hand, and that's the stipulation. So it sounds like to me you win the match by removing the eyeball of your opponent. Once you do that and you show it to the referee, and the referee holds it, tastes it to make sure it's a real eyeball, and confirms it, he rings the bell, and that person is declared the winner. That's the only thing I can think of. It's so weird why they're doing why they're doing this horror show shit in July. Shouldn't they be saving this for like Halloween? Bring back Halloween Havoc, or if you do want to do some sort of like gory theme, do it in October. You know, when it's fall and it's pumpkin flavored everything and all that stuff going on. So yeah, horror show, Extreme Rules should be a hoot. But now you've got the swamp match, and now you've got an eyeball match. You know, we could see I was not singing the praises, but I was cautiously optimistic that Extreme Rules wouldn't be too bad. I don't really hate some of these matches. I know McIntyre and Dolph is somewhat predictable because McIntyre's not dropping the belt to him, but I don't think that match is going to be bad. I'm going to enjoy seeing that match. I think Sasha and Asuka is going to be fun as hell, and I'm intrigued about the swamp match. So there's enough on Extreme Rules for me to not brush this off as an annoying pay-per-view that's in the way, that's thrown together, that's going to suck. Feels like this one might not be too horrible. So maybe I'm being way too optimistic. Maybe I'm being way too positive. But even though I think the name of the pay-per-view is stupid and the way they're hammering it home, and I'm not quite sure what to make of the eyeball stuff, I think it's got potential. Potential. We'll see. Yeah, well, I mean, Roman, you might not need to really freeze someone like Roman's contract because I'm pretty sure he's locked up for many years to come. It just depends. They can't all be the $1 million belt. I remember when the $1 million Man, I watched that live as it happened on Superstars or wherever it was. I don't even remember which show he unveiled the $1 million title on. But I remember when he did, and they were doing the vignettes leading up to it, like he would go visit the jeweler to talk about the design of the belt. And I remember there was a segment where he's in there talking to the belt maker, and he's like, he's showing him like a leather strap, and DiBiase's like, what's that? He goes, well, this is being the leather strap of the belt. He's like, no. I don't want leather. I want this thing to be 100% gold. Like the strap gold, everything gold. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't think I'm going to like that. So I didn't really like the gold strap. I almost liked like the leather stuff more. So like as a kid, I would have loved to like get my hands on a real title belt, but I wouldn't have wanted that one. I was actually not that huge of a fan of the $1 million belt, to be honest. Spaz, thanks man for $5 more. I appreciate it. The horror show at Extreme Rules is creeping up on so bad it's good territory, like December to Dismember, Legends of Wrestling, Halloween Havoc level. Yeah, I'm optimistic that it's like not going to be too bad. I think the name is ridiculous, especially the fact that it was Extreme Rules Horror Show. Now it's the Horror Show at Extreme Rules. They don't even know what the hell's going on here. But the swamp match, the eyeball match, the women's matches, both of them are all looking really good on paper, and I think we've definitely seen worse pay-per-views during this time, and this one might not be that bad. A little bummed out for SummerSlam. It's back in the PC, so I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, last year was so awesome. That was the year we got like Trish Stratus and Charlotte, right? And oh my God, I just want life to go back to normal. You know what I mean? I had to run around town, do some errands today, and just constantly remembering to put that mask on. It's 250 degrees outside, so it's hard to breathe. I think in the wintertime, the mask won't be so bad because it would like warm you a little bit more, especially if you live in a really cold place. But when it's hot like this, and just seeing how we're living right now is just so frustrating because it ain't going to end anytime soon. We're going to be wearing masks till we're dead, and that's sad and depressing. Marcus, Halloween Havoc is a cursed pay-per-view. They sucked. I loved a lot of Halloween Havocs. Halloween Havoc, to me, probably had one of the best wrestling sets ever. As a matter of fact, I did a review, Marcus, just for you on my channel. Halloween Havoc 1998, which wasn't a great pay-per-view because it was cursed. The feed cut off to the Goldberg and Diamond Dallas Page match, but that set was so good. They had it in like 97 and 96 too. I loved the Halloween Havoc sets. I thought it looked so good. That's how you do a pay-per-view set, and that's what I wish we had more of now. But not all Halloween Havocs were bad. Maybe as a whole, the pay-per-views were never that great, but there are some really classic matches at Halloween Havoc. Mysterio and Eddie was probably one of my favorites. Spaz, thanks, man. 5 more. Again, soft people are going to cry. Another fired person came back to be on the show. I guess. Yeah, maybe they are. I haven't seen anybody cry. I don't know what your timeline looks like, dude, but mine don't. I don't see these things, so you must have a rough timeline. But I haven't seen anybody complaining about them using him, at least for my end. But I was just happy to see Heath back because we all like Heath. He's very likable. And who knows? He might be back for good. Who knows? Maybe they re-signed him like they did Drake Maverick. Oh, speaking of Drake Maverick, by the way, I stay up all night, so I'm always awake. And last night around 3:30 in the morning, he posted a very strange tweet. Said, "Hey, this is it Renee? What's his wife's name? Drake is being looked at by doctors right now. He's being fine." And then it was a whole bunch of like the letter I typed right in a row. I'm like, that's concerning. But turned out, I guess he's claiming he was hacked or somebody had taken his phone and played a little trick on him or something like that. At the end of the day, he's fine. Nothing was wrong with him, and that was a big relief because when I saw that, I'm like, oh, that's a bit, we might need to do a wellness check on this guy. But turns out he's all right, and that is very good news because 2020, I wouldn't be surprised if it did something really shitty to us. So I'm really happy to hear that Drake's cool. DM23, man, thank you for the $5. Good to see you in here. Sorry I've been missing the last few podcasts. Work has been exhausting. Tell me about it. I've been going through the same thing. But do you think we will see Seth with an eye patch for the rest of the year? I didn't think about that. Maybe we could. Maybe he could do what his former Shield comrade was doing in AEW and rock an eye patch for a while. Wouldn't be surprised. You would think that Seth is going to have an eye injury in that match, right? There's got to be some sort of revenge, but then again, with Mysterio's contract, I don't know how that will play into it. He might, they might have him lose or something, and I still think Dominic could play a role. I would love to see Dominic get involved. I would love to see Dominic turn heel. Dominic could lose an eye. Then they got, between the two of them, they got 2 eyes. That might be funny. I don't know. I'm not really sure what they're going to do there because we still have to hear what the rest of the damn stipulation is. Does it actually mean the winner, you got to poke your opponent's eye out to win the match? And if you do, somebody's going to have to wear an eye patch. I'd be into watching that. All right, shout out to Jeff Jarrett from Prince66. Random, but whatever. Jeff Jarrett, ain't he great? Good to see you, Diet Water. Glad you're here. Another monkey wrench in the house. All right, what else is in my notes here? I had the only news I had written down, and we talked about a lot of news yesterday in the podcast, the WWE purchasing Evolve and some Cody Rhodes news, latest on the COVID stuff. All that was discussed yesterday. The only thing I really had written down today to talk about was Sarah Logan's pregnancy, and we wished her and Eric the best. And Rey Mysterio, of course, working without a contract, and SummerSlam pretty much confirmed for the PC, WrestleMania and SummerSlam in the PC. what's it going to be like 3 years from now when we look back on this year? And are we going to be out of the woods by then even? Are we going to have a second pandemic by then? Who knows what's going to happen, but it sure will be nice when all this is over with and we can look back on 2020 and say, let's never return to that year again. What an awful year for wrestling. My God. All right. I think I'm pretty much caught up on the comments there and the questions. You guys do me a favor and smash that thumbs up now that we got a decent audience in here. Try to get these likes up for me. We'll hang out for a little bit longer here and see if there's any more questions that roll in. And then I'll probably get the hell out of here. I have a really, really, really busy week this week. So the plan is for me not to be back up here until Saturday for the Winged Eagle podcast because I'll be pretty much unavailable all week. And I also have planned a live stream for this coming Sunday. It's a Patreon donation stream where we're going to be talking about territory wrestling. I just realized today there is a slight chance, I'll know tomorrow in the next couple days, there's a slight chance I might have to bump that to a different time. I didn't take into account my work schedule on Sunday, and I'm going to try to alter some things so I can be home that night to do the stream. If I can't, it's either going to have to be moved to a different time or maybe just 2 days later. Not really sure yet how that's going to go down, but I will let you guys know all over YouTube and social media this week. And by the time we get to the Winged Eagle podcast this Saturday, I will definitely know what the plan is by then. So the plan is to be up here Saturday and Sunday this coming weekend with 2 back-to-back streams, but Sunday is subject to change just because my life is a little bit nuts right now. Working and being in the restaurant and stuff, I'm needed kind of a lot. So a lot of stuff planned for this week, and unfortunately, I probably won't be up here unless I'm able to throw together a mic drop or something like that in the meantime. We'll see. But otherwise, probably plan on me for Saturday. And tell your friends, make sure you share this video and let them know to come stop by and check out our podcast over here, trying to climb these subscribers up. Just past 30,000 subs on the channel recently, but we want to keep going, and we don't like seeing the stalling. Pretty much some of the lowest numbers I've ever seen on this channel are currently taking place right now. So really want to get this thing turned around and get back to normal when we're operating on all cylinders here. So I'd appreciate any help you guys can give me. Naveed, favorite belt designs aside from the 3 behind you? Yeah, well, those are my favorite 2. The television title isn't one of my all-time favorites, but in WCW titles, it's one of my favorites. The tags, classic tags, the 1980s WWF tag team titles, I loved those belts as well. Would love to see those make a return. In terms of WCW belts, the only one I really liked was the TV title. I like the US belt okay. The big gold belt, again, not my... I like it. I have more of an appreciation for the big gold belt now. I actually would like to pick up maybe a replica of that just to have it. I actually owned one of the very first ever replica titles. It was when they first came out in 1999. I ordered them, and they were really poorly and shoddily made back then. I remember the front plate wasn't concaved at all. It wasn't curved. It was just flat. And the belt was like really ugly. I remember selling it on eBay years ago for like over $100, but it was just made like shit because it was one of the first ever replica belts. I remember taking it places and showing it to people, and they were just mesmerized by it. Like, holy shit, that's a real belt. Now they're fucking everywhere. So I would like to get a new one and one of the more newer designs. So maybe next time WWE runs one of those crazy WWE shop promotions where they give 35% off a title belt or something, maybe I'll pick one up and you'll see a big gold belt hanging in the background. But aside from that, I'm trying to think what other, but I've never really been a fan of the US title in WWE. Maybe the old NWA TV title, the red one that NWA recently brought back before they kind of ceased operations too. I liked that one from back in the day. I'm just trying to think mostly WCW and WWE. ECW didn't really have that great of belts. I remember their tag team titles back in the day was the same style as the Intercontinental title. And the ECW title was cool, but yeah, pretty much those behind me. And the big gold belt are the only ones I've really, really loved in my life. That's very funny, Marcus. Oh, Tyler, do I think Ziggler, Miz, and Kofi will be Hall of Famers when they retire? Yeah. They've all been champ. They're all world champions. They're all intercontinental champions. They're all tag team champions. Pretty sure they're all U.S. champions. All three of those guys have won every belt possible, right? I mean, aside from cruiserweight and shit, the belts that they're eligible for. Yeah, they're definitely Hall of Famers. They've all put in over a decade in the company now. How long have they all been there? Ziggler's been there 14, probably. 14 years, 15 years. Miz, same thing. Kofi, same thing. I think they are. I think all three of those guys are Hall of Famers. Even though I think all of them could have been bigger than they were. I think the criteria, too, later on is going to be different for Hall of Famers, because now if you just judge it by title belts, everybody wins the title. Ezekiel Jackson is a former Intercontinental Champion, right? So just purely winning title belts, I don't think is really, a good indicator or criteria anymore for somebody getting into the Hall of Fame, because everybody wins every belt, even if you suck. They just give you the belt. It's like a giant waiting list. Yep, here's your turn with the belt. Up here, it's your turn. Here, it's your turn. And it wasn't like that back in the day. You had guys, you had like legends, you had icons like Jake the Snake Roberts that never even touched gold in WWE of any kind. And there was a lot of guys back then like that. So now with them, based on their resume, they've all won the world title. And to me, that, is the biggest selling point. Plus, they've all had very long careers, and they've all, especially Ziggler and Kofi, have delivered in really good matches virtually every time they get in the ring. So to me, they qualify. Where's Brock Lesnar? He's at home. He's at home sitting on his porch eating steak, banging Sable in a hot tub. That's what I'm guessing. Oh yeah, Ronnie, I didn't mind the WCW World Title, the one that they replaced kind of the big gold belt with for a short time, the one that Ron Simmons wore. Flair even wore that one for a short time, because they had the title split for a while too. I remember there was a unification or something. Kind of forgot how all that went down. That was not an ugly belt, but to me, that world title also looked a lot like the WCW tags, the tag team titles, not the Alliance version of the tag team titles. They had the ones before that like the Outsiders and Harlem Heat and teams like that had. I always felt that version of the world title looked like those tag belts a lot, but I didn't hate those. That wasn't a bad title. Yeah, Barry, you said that, and a lot of people said that. It's just a completely different generation there. I hated that undisputed title. I thought it was so ugly, the one in 2002. But it's a lot of fans, I hear that. They say they liked that belt. I'm one of the only fans that didn't like it. I guess I didn't I did hate it. I was going to say I didn't hate it, but I did. I really didn't like it. I didn't really like the one in 98. Austin won the Winged Eagle title. I was so happy. And then the next night he gets that big-ass ugly blue thing. I wasn't a fan of that either. So, yeah, the Undisputed title I just didn't really like at all. And it didn't last long. Once Cena won it, it started spinning, and it spun for years. I will say this about the Undisputed title. I didn't hate it as bad as the Spinner title. The WWE Spinner Championship that lasted, help me out, guys, what? 2005 through 2013, something like that. 8 years of that spinner belt. That has been my least favorite championship belt that's ever existed across every promotion in every country around the world. That is the worst belt ever. Still pisses me off that we had 8 years of that thing, that ugly ass thing. My God. So Barry, I never liked the Undisputed title from 02 to 05, but I definitely liked it better than that dumb thing that spun. Zane, appreciate the $10. Appreciate you chiming in. Say the pandemic lasts through WrestleMania 37. Chance of the event being 2 nights. Maybe they made such a big deal about last year, too big for one night. And we speculated as to what they're going to do the following year. Is it all of a sudden not too big for one night anymore? How do they backtrack there? And it also might be a good little test to see if WrestleMania eventually does become a 2-night event when things get back to normal. So the way it's looking right now, I'm really starting to be concerned for WrestleMania. I don't know if it's going to happen here in LA. I mean, I'd been planning for the last 2 years when it was kind of rumored it was going to be here. I'm like, finally, I'm going to be there. I'm going to WrestleMania. It's going to be a blast. And now I'm not so sure. I don't know, man. It sucks. I can't believe we might miss another one, but that might be the way it goes. This pandemic, it might be a year. 1 year from now, maybe. We got fans in the building 1 year from this day. But prior to then, just based on the news, based on the numbers, based on all the information, everything's getting worse and nothing's getting better. So, I don't know. But I suppose if they do that, they'll do a 2-night event again. Might as well. Might as well. Oh, the big eagle only looked good on Triple H. Yeah, you mean the big blue belt. Yeah, because he was the only one that wore it. Nobody else wore it. Austin didn't wear it. Rock wore it right away. Like, he wore it at first when he won the tournament. I think he put it on. But then after that, he was pretty much carrying that thing around. So the only champion, and Mick Foley, of course, never wore it. So Triple H was the only guy to actually wear the title around his waist, to wear that belt. And it did look good on him. He wore it like a champ. The big gold belt looked good on Triple H, too. And I always like guys that, like, wore the belt. I always appreciated that. Because so many guys wouldn't wear it. But Triple H, they always look good. He looked like a champion when he wore those belts. Goldberg, same thing. You know, Goldberg would wear the belt. I appreciated that. Brock would wear the belt. But yeah, that 98 version of the title probably did look the best on Triple H. I agree. I agree with that totally. Ha! Trey, GoodMicWork, you're a hater. I love the spinner belt. That was my favorite belt. Stop hating, Greg. Damn, man. Trey, I'm going to have to block you. I'm going to find you on social media, and I'm going to report you for harassment and bullying. How dare you say that belt was good? I don't ever want to see you again in here, Trey. I'm kidding. I have no problem with your love for that belt. It was so awful, though. It was so awful. The spinner belt was the best. The funny thing is, I liked when Cena won the U.S. title, and he customized it, and he had the spinner. I remember getting a chuckle out of that. I'm like, that's fucking hysterical. You know, it spins. But then when they did it to the world title, it just changed it for me. I just did not like it at all. And the belt is so big, and even the front plate was like, it was thick. You know, and just as a wrestler, I just would not want to carry that damn thing around with me. It just was so ugly, especially when we've had so many beautiful championship belts in the past, and that honking debacle. Ugh. Well, we'll agree to disagree on this one, Trey. It's all good. You're not blocked. Hey, Vontae, I don't think so. Is the plan to bring Slater, Drew, and Jinder together to be a major faction? Maybe. Jinder, I know, is hurt and is going to be out for a while. Slater apparently might have come in just to kind of wrap up business and head off to Impact. No word on what his contract status is, but he might not be back permanently. This might have just been kind of a send-off for him. So I don't know. I'd be in favor of a 3MB reunion if it's the faction kind of with a new attitude, because I am worried, and we've talked about this too, I am worried about Drew McIntyre, you know, wearing a little bit thin on the fans a little bit with the babyface stuff, with the babyface promo. Is exactly what got Cena and Roman in trouble, just trying to be too much of a babyface, trying to be too funny and too cute at times where it kind of comes off as cringy, and I feel like Drew might be treading that line a little bit too closely. I think Drew should just continue just to kick ass. He doesn't need nursery rhymes. He doesn't need, you know, to do what Roman and Cena did, and you don't have to script cringy-ass little promos for him to cut. I think if he just goes out there and he's McIntyre, Claymore in the head off his opponents, that's all I need as a fan. And so I'd rather see him be that way. And that's one thing I'm worried about in terms of his future. So if it seems like it's going in that direction, and maybe the fans are starting to give him a hard time, maybe they're starting to sour on him a little bit and criticize him, maybe they can turn him heel. We've talked about that. You know, the very rare heel turn in the middle of a world title run's only been done a couple of times. And maybe he goes heel and, you know, 3MB is an ass-kicking faction, maybe. But that would just align him with Jinder Mahal, and nobody likes Jinder. And I don't know if that would really do Drew any favors if he were to do that. So I'd probably vote no on that, but I still would like to get some sort of a 3MB match or segment or something just to acknowledge it and have them all in the ring together, and then I guess that's it. But that might not happen now. Zane, thank you, man. Appreciate the $10. Sorry for dominating your super chat. You are. You're dominating it. Dominating it. Pull my hair, Zane. But 22 years ago today, Goldberg becomes a double champion at the Georgia Dome. Holy shit, thank you for that. That was 22 years ago today. I will never forget that night. My God, what a fun night on Nitro. Bobby Heenan selling that victory. It's one of the few great moments that I actually enjoyed at WCW. Because I remember I was flipping back and forth. As a matter of fact, in my 1998 Raw collection, on that Raw, you can see me flipping back to the match. It's great. And I remember just marking out because it was Hogan. It was Hogan going down in the Georgia Dome. And they threw that together on Thunder the Thursday before. They put 40,000 people in the Georgia Dome, and it was probably one of the best crowd reactions to a title win in history. I always remember the toilet paper rolls flying, and Goldberg is the double champion because he was already U.S. champion. He was undefeated, and he put Hogan down. And that was great stuff, man. Probably WCW at its peak, and they had already been losing in the ratings by that point. That whole match was put together solely because WWE was whipping their ass. All of a sudden, they had turned things around. They had the far better product. Austin was on top of the world. They were right off the heels of King of the Ring with Austin winning the title on Raw from Kane. They had never been hotter. Ratings had never been higher. And I think WCW was in panic mode, and they're like, all right, we've got our answer to Stone Cold. The only guy we have in the company that's even close to as over as Stone Cold is Goldberg. And he's arguably as over as Austin, or at least close. So they had to do that. And then you had Austin and Goldberg both as champions of the respective companies. It was a very interesting time to have two lookalikes both holding the title and both guys being over. One didn't even feel like a cheap knockoff version of the other. When I first saw Goldberg, that's what I thought he was. When he beat Hugh Morris, I'm like, look at this shit. They got a dude in black trunks and bald head and a goatee out there, and not talking and being all cold and stone cold. I just thought he was their answer to Austin, but luckily he had a little bit different of a ring style, a little more animalistic and beast-like. He was more of an Ultimate Warrior than he was a Stone Cold. He just had the look, and it worked. And I was never a huge Goldberg fan, but for that night I was, because that was a big moment for them. And plus you saw a new star. The stars were just coming out of the woodwork, man. A couple months later, we'd make The Rock. The Rock was already starting to bubble. A year after that, we'd make Triple H. This was the beginning of that, Attitude Era and early 2000s crew that would dominate. The Goldbergs, the Austins, the Rocks, the Triple H's, the Brock Lesnar's that would come in. So, yeah, those were the days, the Mankinds and shit like that. So, yeah. Thank you for that fun fact there, Zane. Didn't even realize today was the anniversary. Man, good times, man. I'd do anything to go back to those times. Oh, yeah, I forgot about the Smoking Skull belt. I didn't like it that much, but I liked it a lot more than other customized belts. It didn't look that bad, and I think the reason they made that is because Austin didn't like the big blue belt either. That was the word on the street back in the day anyway, that the whole reason why they designed that belt is because he didn't like the look of the blue one. They should have just kept the Winged Eagle. What's wrong with these guys? Bruce, you just got home from drinking? Yeah, check out Raw. It wasn't awful. Kairi Sane and Heath Slater were back on the show. We had a really, really good main event. Brand new U.S. title design was revealed, so check it out. We've definitely seen worse Raws. That's for sure. Thank you for another $5, DM23. I appreciate that. Jeff Hardy purple custom belt was worse than the spinner belt. Purple with his face on it doesn't make it feel like a world title. Okay, I remember that one, the TNA one, right? That kind of looked like the Divas title. I remember that's what everybody was talking about. And that's fine. I totally respect your opinion. You thought that purple belt was worse than the spinner belt. I did not like the purple belt either, but I still don't see anything worse than that spinner belt. You're never going to convince me that there's been an uglier belt than that spinner belt. I'm very sorry, Trey. It's just how I feel. It's how I feel inside. The thing is so awful. So awful. If they offer, I swear to God, I'm not even joking. If they offered the spinner replica title on WWE Shop for $1 with free shipping, I would not buy it. That's the honest truth. Well, maybe I would buy it and I'd give it away to one of you guys. I'd give it to Trey, or I'd give it away in a giveaway or something. But I would not buy it. I would not buy it and display it. I think it's ugly. Yeah, top 5 moment of all time. Goldberg beating Hogan. That might be a stretch for top 5 of all time, but it's up there. It's definitely top 5 in WCW's history. That's for sure. That was just an amazing, just energy. The fans and everything. Hogan going down like that. And props to Hogan for doing business. Props to Hogan understanding what kind of a reaction that would get. Putting over Goldberg like that. Yeah, Jeff's purple butterfly belt. Ironically, I still like the purple butterfly belt more than the spinner. I even like the Divas title more than the spinner belt. I'd buy a Divas replica title before a spinner belt replica title. That's for sure. Guys, do me a favor. Keep smashing that thumbs up for me since we got close to 400 people in the chat. Finally here. A little bit more of a normal audience. Hook me up with them likes. I need the likes, y'all. Ha! That's a good question. The best wrestler-specific belt combo, Brett and the Winged Eagle. Mr. Perfect in the Intercontinental. Brett in the Intercontinental. I go Brett Winged Eagle, Perfect IC, Savage Intercontinental title. Hogan. One thing about Hogan, we got to look up the stats on this. He's got to be the guy that's had more championship belt versions than anybody else. Because he beat the Sheik for the title in '84, and that was that big. It actually kind of resembled a little bit of what the 24/7 title looks like now, green strap and everything. He won that belt, and then that was immediately changed to a smaller silver-looking belt. It almost resembled the NWA TV title that I referenced earlier on. It almost looked like that, so that was the second belt. Then they went into like the Hogan '86 belt, I think, after that. So by '86, he was already on his third belt. Then in '88, when he lost the belt to Andre, it was the Winged Eagle. So that would have been his fourth belt. Then he was gone from WWE. When he came back, he won the undisputed version. So 5. And that was it, I guess. So Hogan alone, by himself, has held 5 different WWE world title designs. That's incredible. That's a lot. Yeah, Bruce, I think Hogan had 5, not 4. He had the Sheik belt, the one after that, the '86 belt, the Winged Eagle, and then the 2002 version. Oh yeah, Flair, big gold belt would be another one. Triple H and the big gold would be one. Trying to think who else. Probably those are the biggest ones. I'm trying to think of like the U.S. title in WCW, but nobody was really synonymous with that belt in my mind. Maybe Arn and the TV title. Throw that one out there for fun. Maybe Mysterio and the Cruiserweight title, or Jericho and the TV title would also be fun. Oh yeah, and Edge, Edge had the rated R belt, but they basically just kept the belt and they just put the rated R spinner thing in it instead of the Cena one or whatever. So yeah, they should rename the Universal title. I just wish instead of the Universal title, we talked about this when they unveiled that belt years ago, that we were just hoping it would be the old world title, that they would resurrect the old big gold belt and bring that back and just have a world champion again, have the WWE champion and the world champion, but instead they made the Universal title and they just carbon copied the belt and made it blue, or they made it red at the time, now it's blue, and to me that was lazy. Should have had more fun with that. Canyon, thank you for the $2. Is it true San Diego is going to close restaurants? Not right now. It looks like they're going to try to stay open as long as they can. A lot of other counties are surrounding us are closing. There are some places in Northern California, I think they're still on lockdown. They've done some more restrictions. All restaurants that don't, or all bars that don't serve food cannot be open. And if you do serve alcohol and food, you have to be closed by 10 p.m. So we cannot serve anything past 10 o'clock, and we have to have everybody out of the building by 11. And I think they're doing that, and it's smart. They're doing that to prevent people from going out and getting wasted. Because when you do that and you start getting drunk and you get a buzz, no inhibitions, and you tend to not to maybe care about your face mask. Social distancing doesn't become that important anymore because you're not thinking clearly. And so if bars are allowed to be open until 2 o'clock and people are getting hammered, nobody's going to be social distancing at all, and they're just going to be coughing and breathing on top of each other because they don't give a shit, and that just helps the spread. So it sucks. We have a bar right next to us that I frequent all the time. Their business doesn't even start until 10 o'clock at night, to when they really get busy. So all their business and all of their money comes between those 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. hours, and they're virtually shut down. They can be open all day and do a little bit of business then, but right when the busy part of their night comes, they have to close down. So it really sucks. Right now, I'm safe. Right now, we're still open, and it looks like we should remain open unless the cases just get really bad and really out of hand. There might be some more social distancing guidelines. A lot of restaurants are being forced to close their indoor operations. And luckily for me, my restaurant is 90% outdoors. We have one little indoor dining room, and the rest is outside. So I am very lucky because I'm already outside in open air. And right now, at least for right now, we are not affected by it, but there's still a lot of just depends on what the restaurant situation is, what kind of business they do, what kind of food and drinks they serve, and what type of place they are, depending on how it's going to be affected. So I am a very, very fortunate person to be in the place that I'm in the area that I'm in, and we're able to weather this storm. I mean, we're barely doing it, but we're doing it, and that's what matters. But it feels like just the way the cases are climbing, there might be another shutdown, because we did notice a drop in the cases. When you hit it hard and you just shut everything down and say, all right, everybody stay inside for 3 weeks and let's try to, get a grip on this. They might have to do that again. I don't know. I don't want that to happen. Need to keep my job. Don't want to go back in unemployment. Just bought a new car the other day. So I'm trying to live life as normal, and I certainly don't want something else to trip me up. So let's hope that we all survive this, but it just sucks. God. Do anything to blink and just rewind to a year ago when shit was so great, 2020 has been terrible. There's other things, like movie theaters and stuff that aren't open. And, I know New York City was going to start reopening, and then they kind of pulled back. So it sucks everywhere. No likes for you, Greg. Hater, done with you. I know, Trey. I'm so sorry. I shit on your spinner belt. I'm very, very sorry. I think you're like the only person I've ever met that's like really love that belt. I gotta respect your opinion. It's okay. Hey, Jordan, good to see you. Thanks for popping in. For those just tuning in, we're just hanging out now. If you want to hear all of my thoughts on the Raw results, we touched on that at the beginning of the podcast, but we got that done in about an hour, so I figured I'd just kind of hang out with you guys. We'll answer questions. We'll shoot the shit because you're not going to get me again until Saturday for the Winged Eagle. So this will be it for a few days. So I wanted to hang out with you guys. Yeah, Ronnie, I bought a two-door 1992 Nissan. It has 680,000 miles on it. Got a pretty good deal on it. I was able to pay with 4 rolls of quarters, which was nice, and the insurance is only 88 cents a month, so it's not too bad. Very happy. Oh, I just recently saw that. Why was he yelling, ah, help? I remember Cole, was it a promo or something? Somebody was talking in the ring, and Cole just screams out, ah, help. I forgot who was cutting that promo. But I just recently saw a clip of that, like, within the last several weeks. DA, you love that belt too? What is wrong with y'all? How can you love such an ugly piece of equipment? You're going to buy me a spinner belt? Yeah. We'll do a thing where we'll film it, get a camera, and we'll do like an Office Space where you take, how they took the printer out into the field and they just beat the shit out of it like gangster style. We'll do that to the Winged Eagle. I'll get a bat, and I'll need a couple people off of like with me. That way, when I try to attack the belt, they have to like hold me back to stop me from killing the belt. He's had enough. He's had enough, Greg. Ooh, Marcus, better squash, Brock Cena or Brock Rock? Brock Cena. Brock Cena was so emphatic. You could feel it in the Brock Rock match. You kind of knew. But the Cena Brock stuff was so crazy because it was just, Rock, I felt like there was a little more back and forth in the Brock match. With the Cena match, it was just Brock beating the shit out of him for 10 minutes. Cena with a couple of little comebacks there, but none of them really meant anything. That felt more of a statement win to me than the Rock one. Although the Rock was a very big statement win, I never viewed the Rock-Brock match as a squash. I just viewed it as a very, very strong, definitive win where Brock, he just raped Cena. I mean, it was ugly. I remember. Gangsta's Paradise playing in the background. Whatever song they were playing in Office Space. I think it was Dre or Ice Cube or something. Might have been Ice Cube. I forgot what song they were playing in the background of the Office Space, but I probably didn't want it to be that song because that was badass. Oh, yeah, I've thought that myself, Michael Cuomo. Thank you for the $2. I wonder what 1992 Royal Rumble would have been like with Brett. Think about how great that pay-per-view was, and there was no Brett. Brett was off TV selling his sickness. He had like the flu, and he dropped the belt to the Mountie on the loop before the pay-per-view. Piper won the belt at the pay-per-view, beating the Mountie, and Brett wasn't even on the show. And that was a star-studded Royal Rumble. Imagine if Brett would have been in there, mixing it up with Savage and Hogan and Taker and Flair and, oh my God, and Piper. Oh, man, I can't believe Brett wasn't at that pay-per-view. It blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind. Oh, cool, Barry. Next time I see you, give me my spinner belt. Well, I'm going to be in Kauai right after WrestleMania. I'll be there. We are staying at a different place this time, apparently. We're not where we were last time. I got to find out the details on that. But yeah, Kauai is coming up. Hopefully, anyway. Squash needs to be Cage versus Moxley. Wow. I don't know. I'm not sure if Brian Cage is the answer right now for AEW in terms of, competition and stuff. I'd probably keep the belt on Moxley, but you never know. Hey, Scott Moss, good to see you. Another one of my top patrons in the house. You've got a really fun review coming up here pretty soon on the channel. That's going to be a blast. I'm going to try to get that done at the very beginning of July, I believe. We're doing that for you. Is that right? But anywho, what's up? GoodMicWork. Do you think Steve Williams and Terry Gordy are a top 5 tag team of all time? Probably not, but they're a good tag team. That is my top with Road Warriors, Demolition, Brainbusters, and New Day. Wow, New Day on that list. Yeah, Williams and Gordy, they were a badass team, but just didn't run as long, I guess, and just don't have as big of a tag team legacy. Like when you think about all the classic teams, I'd probably even put the Rock and Roll ahead of Terry and Williams. But in terms of being favorites, yeah, if that's one of your favorite teams, hell yeah. You got some good ones on there. Tully and Arn were fabulous. Road Warriors and Demolition. Demolition is probably my number. I can never decide if Demolition is my number 2 or 3 favorite tag team. It's Hearts, Bulldogs, Demolition. It's Hearts 1, and Demolition and Bulldogs are like 1 and 1A. They're 2 and 2A. After that will probably be the Road Warriors and a few other teams, but I was a Bulldogs guy back in the day. But you got some good damn teams there, man. Oh, you watched John Cena every day since you were 5. That's why you love that belt. Well, I can understand that because that's probably the same exact reason why I love other belts, because I grew up watching them and I grew up attached to them, and they became synonymous with certain guys and synonymous with certain champions. And that's why I became attached to them the way I did. So I can understand that, even though I think the belts are ugly, I don't have that same connection with them as other fans do that, kind of grew up with it. So there's probably plenty of fans that think the belts that I like are ugly. So part of the reason why I like those belts is pretty much due to the nostalgia factor, is really all it is. So I can understand that. At least that's something that I can appreciate, because when you grow up with something and it's a part of your life for so long, naturally you're going to be attached to it. The Bushwhackers, man, no, they're not on the list. The Steiners I did like. I don't know where they would rank. I'd probably put the Steiners in my top 10 for sure. Steiners were awesome. Oh, that's a good idea. If I did get the spinner belt, I'd spray paint GMW like the NWO. That's a fabulous idea, man. Hell yeah. All right, what else should we talk about before I get out of here tonight? We've gone not quite 2 hours, so we got some chit-chatting in, which is good. Oh, I kind of forgot about the North American title. I didn't even think about that one. Yeah, I don't hate the North American title. I like that one too. In terms of a secondary title, do I like that one more than the current and the new US? That might be a tough call. I'd probably say yeah, though. I'm probably with you on that one. I think of all the secondary titles in the company right now, North American is the best, probably followed by the US, followed by the 24/7, and then at the bottom is that ugly-ass Intercontinental. I don't like their tag belts either, WWE's tag belts. I think they're ugly. Oh, really, Michael? I was thinking, well, they were playing that song, Damn It Feels Good to Be a Gangsta, but I didn't think they were playing that in the printer scene. They played that in a different scene. I don't think that's the song that was playing when they were beating the printer to death. I don't think that's the song. But I can't remember what it was. I want to say it was Ice Cube. Where are we? Oh, there we go. Ooh, Darby beating Cody for the title. I like that idea. I'm into that. All right, movies. Okay, where is it? Okay, here it is. I've got the scene. Oh, yeah. I don't want to play that for too long and get a copyright match. Yeah, that's definitely not the song we thought. Yeah, I just pulled up the movie. I have all my movies right here. Yeah, I don't know the name of the song, but I liked it, and that's what I want to do to the spinner belt. All right, Zane, thank you, man. Appreciate the $10. Yo, MicIWork, last one of the night. Undertaker made his debut in 1990, but he missed SummerSlam 1991 due to nursing injuries. How if he just got there? Well, he can still get injured. I mean, he still had lots of matches from his debut up until 1991. So I don't remember at the time what his injury was. He might have tweaked a knee or sprained an ankle or had a shoulder issue or something. I'm not sure. He was there at SummerSlam. He crashed the wedding. But yeah, he was probably like just a nagging injury, probably just off TV for a few weeks. I don't remember the story, but I'm sure whatever the injury was minor. I don't know who he would have worked with that night because they had just done the Warrior stuff, but he was on his way out, and then I guess it would have been Taker and Warrior. That's what they should have done, actually. So maybe that's it. Maybe that's why. Maybe they were going in that direction for Undertaker and Ultimate Warrior at SummerSlam, but Taker's injury changed directions and Warrior tagged with Hogan instead. Don't really remember. To me, that card was all about Brett and Perfect. What a match. What a match. But I appreciate all of your kindness tonight, Zane. You've been the man. You've been the champ of the evening. And take care, and thanks for hanging out with us tonight. It's been a lot of fun, as always. They redid that scene on Family Guy. I'm not surprised. They've redone so many famous movie scenes in Family Guy. I remember they did Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and they did the John Candy and Steve Martin scene once with Peter. Peter. What's up, Lambo for life? I think that says. I'm doing great, man. Doing very good. About to get on out of here. Just kind of stalling, seeing if there's any more juicy questions coming through. Oh, yeah, I've seen that match. That match exists. Warrior took on Orlando Jordan. I don't know how long ago that was now. 12 years ago, something like that. That was overseas, I believe. Yeah, it's available. You can find it if you search a little bit. Oh, Sammy beating Cody for the title. I'd be into Sammy or Darby. I like both of them. So if one of those knocked off Cody, I'd be into that. I've seen that match. I've seen the Texas Red and Bruiser Brody match, or at least clips of it. Oh, Marcus, I'm a sharpshooter guy by far, easily. Used to put it on both of my sisters when I was a kid. I perfected it. I could put it on just as good as Brett, and my sisters walk funny as a result. Yeah, I think that was his original problem. A lot of guys like Diesel played basketball too. Nash and Taker both did. And I think it was problems with knees. All basketball players, man, they got those knee problems. And when you're big like that, it probably causes a lot of issues. Change directions. Football players, same thing. A lot of times you get an injury, but so you can't play professional football anymore, much like Goldberg. But you find wrestling. So it's a common thing. Happens all the time. Yeah, well, it definitely looks like they are rushing the MJF Wardlow breakup. Either that or they're going to drag their feet like Sasha and Bayley. But they've planted too many seeds now. You almost got to do it now because they've made it so clear that MJF's an asshole and he treats Wardlow like crap. Eventually he'll snap and pull an Alex Riley and murder MJF right there on TV. Wardlow's good. You see that swanton he did on Dynamite? He is. I don't understand how he didn't land in WWE at the PC. He seems like such a Vince guy. He's big, he's tanned, he's muscular, he looks like Roman Reigns, he's athletic, he's strong. He's exactly like, he's got the framework of everything Vince sees as important. And I'm surprised that a guy like him is in AEW and not the Performance Center working out with Shawn Michaels. Oh, man, I tortured them, man. I used to put them in the sharpshooter. I put them in the figure four all the time. If I had brothers, I would put them in the figure four, but unfortunately, I wasn't lucky enough. I had to have sisters, so they were younger. So when I was a kid, I wrapped them up, tapped them out. I won every match. I'm undefeated against both of them. Jordan, appreciate it, man. Thanks for the $3. So much for Survivor Series with Taker with a crowd. I know, it ain't looking good now. I've been petitioning for that for the better part of a year and a half once we realized that Survivor Series could very well fall on the very same day, the 30th anniversary to the day. I've been pushing hard for that. But now with the SummerSlam being in the PC and no end in sight, not only am I worried about SummerSlam and Survivor Series, I'm worried about WrestleMania next year. So if Survivor Series is in the PC, I really don't think they'll bother with the Taker 30th anniversary thing. But that's a shame. I mean, assuming there was no pandemic, I pitched the idea of Taker, even though he kind of announced his retirement in the docuseries or whatever, you know, for him to come back and do kind of two final appearances where we get one appearance where it's the send-off of the actual dead man character. And I think if, you know, he doesn't wrestle a match, but if he were to appear at Survivor Series in an arena full of people and almost recreate what he did at WrestleMania 33 at the end of the match, maybe just stand there in the ring and make it like a salute to him. I had referenced the awesome ceremony they had for Jushin Thunder Liger at the beginning of the year when he retired and the enormous amount of respect that was in the crowd that night for him. And if The Undertaker were to have something similar like that, like a little ceremony at Survivor Series where he stood there in the ring and you get this long moment of silence, you know, and then his music starts playing and he removes his hat and jacket and does all that shit and just leaves it there and then levitates down or goes away or whatever and basically leaves, and that is the end of the dead man. It's the last time we see that dead man character in the ring. And then at WrestleMania next year, you put him in the Hall of Fame, and we get Mark Calloway delivering the acceptance speech. So we get like a little ceremony and send-off for the dead man, and we get Mark talking to us in the end when he goes into the Hall of Fame. I think that would just be a perfect kind of 1-2 punch, but any chances of that happening are greatly at risk here because of the COVID, and it will probably not happen at all. So it's a shame. It's a shame. Hey, Deshaun Robinson, good to see you. Appreciate the $5. Thank you very much for that. Hey, sorry I missed the review. We all know the outcome on NXT this week. By the way, Lee and Cole, but rumors are WWE filmed 2 endings. Your quick thoughts? Yeah, we talked about that yesterday. The WWE probably did film 2 endings, and we talked about how that will affect the ratings, and I was kind of saying that I don't really think it's going to affect it much at all. I saw a lot of people saying that, oh, NXT is screwed. There's no way, I heard that term used, there's no way that they can win in the ratings now that the result is leaked. And I'm like, I think you're overestimating the strength of just knowing a result ahead of time. Knowing the result of that match is not going to stop me from watching that match. And it's not going to stop me from watching that match first because of what's at stake. And what you have on the other side, while I'm very intrigued and excited for Jericho and Orange Cassidy, that's a match I can catch up with later. That's not must-see TV. I got to see this champion versus champion winner-take-all match because it's a bigger deal, and the match is going to be phenomenal. We know that. And to me, that's the more important match with or without the result being leaked. So I think, yes, it's likely that WWE filmed 2 outcomes, but I also think it's likely that the spoiler that we got is the spoiler that's going to happen. Like, that's actually going to happen because it's really not that surprising. And I am fine with that, and I still think that based on the strength of that, if they won in night 1, I mean, if they won in night 1 with Io and Sasha, how in the hell are they going to lose night 2? Even with the result leaked. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong. AEW could beat them this week in the ratings, and if they do, that would be huge for AEW, and I think they would breathe a breath of fresh air, sigh of relief almost. That few, because I feel like they're kind of, up against the ropes a little bit here, and it's going to be tough, especially with Moxley and Cage being bumped. They don't have a title match now. So to have this one, to have to go up head-to-head against that, it's going to be a tall order for them to win. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes on Wednesday night. That's going to be interesting. Incidentally, I should mention to you guys that about Wednesday night, since I'm not going to talk to you. I've got to work. So last Wednesday, we were up here to do a review on night 1 of both shows. I will not be doing that again this week, obviously. And I will be at work, so I'm not going to be able to watch either one of these shows live. But I will be catching them up after work, and I'll try to give whatever opinions I can on social media. But I'll probably be relatively quiet on Wednesday and Thursday. You might not hear a ton from me just because of what I got going on and stuff. But I'll accept Twitter updates. Please follow me over there at GoodMicWork, and as Dynamite or as Fighter Fest and the Bash are going on, you can send me updates. You can let me know what's happening. I do not care about spoilers. You can tell me anything. I don't mind. Let me know how the shows are going. Let me know which show you think is doing better and all that stuff. It's a shame that I can't be here to experience it all with you guys, but that's life. And all of the results of the Bash and Fighter Fest will be discussed this Saturday on the Winged Eagle podcast. We'll have a lot to get into on these 2 shows. Plus, by then, the ratings will be in, so we'll already know, who's winning there. And that's going to be fun because Wednesday was a trip, or Thursday when they announced the ratings for night 1, and watch everybody argue and bicker. So the people like Alvarez and the other journalists out there that release the ratings, RIP to your mentions, because as soon as that number comes out, you're going to have fans ripping each other's heads off. And that's going to be such a fun time. So much positivity in wrestling Twitter, isn't there? But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for Wednesday, one way or the other. DM23, thank you for $2 more. Will you cry again if Taker does that at Survivor Series? Probably, but at least this time I would believe him, and I believed him at 33, but I think that would be a definitive end on the 30th anniversary. But that's what I would like to see. I want to see 2 separate send-offs, a dead man send-off and Mark Calloway in the Hall of Fame send-off. And then maybe a moment at WrestleMania or something the next night. But I think that's what we need. That's what I need for closure. That's what I want. We'll see. Who knows? But anyway, let's hang out here. I'm going to hang out around here 5 more minutes just so we can have this thing capped off at an even 2 hours. I think I went live about 1 minute before the hour here. So we'll hang out for 5 more, and then I'll bail out. Yeah, you want one more match and have him put over AJ? I'm at peace with Taker not wrestling again, but I'm not totally at peace with Taker never appearing again. That's just why it just depends on the pandemic. Like I said, Survivor Series sitting there, landing on the very same day that he debuted on 30 years prior. How do you not bring him in for that? How do you not do an appearance? How do you not do a face-off with Sting, or something like that? I still think like one or two more things needs to happen for me to have complete full closure, but in terms of a match, I am actually at peace with that. I don't need to see him in the ring again because most of the time it's not very good. And I don't want to run the risk of him regretting his decision to get back in the ring one more time, much like he did with Roman Reigns. And, oh, shit, I didn't like my last match, and now I have to undo everything that I've done. And I don't want to see him run that risk again. So if he's done wrestling, fine, but we still need a send-off, a ceremony, a Jushin Liger or a Ric Flair type of send-off for him. If anybody deserves it, it's him. And I still hope we get that whenever fans return to the arenas. Oh, good. I'm glad that you'll be crying with me. Cry on each other's shoulders. Oh, I don't know. If the leaked ending is not the ending, then what? I don't know. Then the other outcome happened. So either way, like that's the thing. I think regardless of who wins that match, if Adam Cole retains the title and wins the North American title, that's a pretty big deal. I'm like, holy shit, this guy is the king of NXT. There's never been anybody more dominant. Where if Keith Lee wins, it's like, holy shit, they've launched another star, and we already know he's got superstar potential. And either guy, whoever wins, is going to be a double champion, and that's going to be newsworthy as it is. And, if Lee wins, and I mentioned this before, they should hold up the North American title and have a tournament for it and let Gargano win it. Because he's the guy I'd like to see hold that right now, considering that, he's a heel and an asshole and all that good stuff. Yeah, some people are like that. Sometimes it's just not your cup of tea. We talked about that yesterday in the podcast. It was getting on the fans' cases for, I think it's such a waste of time and counterproductive to root against a wrestling promotion for the sole reason that the fans annoy you on the other side. That's disrespectful to wrestling, in my opinion. But if you try to watch AEW or you try to watch NXT, as my cat is coughing, and you watch it and you just don't like it, that's your prerogative, and you have every right not to like it. You all right, buddy? You guys hear that? Tito. Knock it off. I'm trying to wrap up the stream. Anyway. Cough it out. Huh. The Fiend will show up in NXT and take them both out. I don't think we're going to see that. You done? He does this sometimes. It only lasts about 30 seconds. You good? No, you're not. Well, as soon as he's done coughing, I'll sign off here. Done? He's done. All right. Hey, Devlin, where the hell have you been, man? Good to see you. Thanks for the $5. Sorry I'm late. So here's some money for my apology. You have to pay me for your apology. You don't have to do that. Didn't watch Raw today as I struggled to get invested in the main roster. Yeah, Raw wasn't a horrible one. Like I said earlier, we've seen worse. And it had a few newsworthy notes with Kairi Sane and Heath Slater in the new U.S. title, and a new match or two announced for Extreme Rules. So it wasn't a total waste, but again, I don't blame anybody for not being invested in what we're seeing right now. It's really hard. But I'm glad you stopped in at the very end. I'm literally just about to sign off here as we have a pretty promising amount of people in here. This feels like more normal. This is what we're used to on Monday nights, having 500 people here in the chat. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with me this evening and shooting the shit a little bit. So just keep in mind, I'll be back up here this coming Saturday for a big Winged Eagle podcast. We will discuss all of the results of Fyter Fest and Great American Bash Night 2. We'll talk about the ratings. We'll talk about all the wrestling news. We'll talk about SmackDown. We'll preview Extreme Rules. It will be a loaded episode. If I can get up here prior to then and release anything on YouTube, I will, but most likely Saturday will be the next day you hear from me. So you guys take care. Have a great rest of your night. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you in just a few days. Be cool. Peace.